Hoy out there, wireheads and joy toys, corpo, facemen, and street samurai. This is Lupus Daemon Sandifer streaming to you live over NetSpace, telling you to grab some kibble and slot in. It's time for another edition of Generation Cyberpunk. With me today we have Barry.
Hello.
Graham.
Hello.
Greg.
Hello.
Mathadar.
Hello. As I'm adjusting my chair, making a lot of noise.
Yep. Sammy.
Hello.
And Zareth.
Hello.
Okay.
Wait, did we skip Barry?
No, I said
No.
Barry first.
He was first one.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
So today we're discussing the 1981 album Time by ELO, Electric Lights Orchestra. Will it hold on tight to cyberpunk status or end up being a waste of time?
Oh.
Let's check in and find out.
You ought to be shot for that.
Time is the ninth album by English rock band Electric Light Orchestra. The album is synth pop, combining elements from 50s music, new wave, reggae, rockabilly, and various artists. It is considered the most influential album by ELO. The concept of the album is as follows. In 1981, a man drifts into a state of twilight where he appears to have entered the year 2095, meets a gynoid, and reflects on the 1980s. Quote, back when things were so uncomplicated. Walking down the same street from 100 years before, he is dismayed by the plastic flowers and ivory towers which have grown on top of it. As he remains in this future period, he looks out his window depressed, watching the world go by. He attempts to send a letter in the form of a dream to his girlfriend in the past, but fails. Now, unfortunately, I couldn't find a whole lot of fun facts about this information other than it was pretty much one of the first concept albums that did really well, if not the first.
It influenced a ton of artists of today, especially in the EDM genre of music.
Yeah, I've noticed
Actual
some
Daft
heavy
Punk.
synths.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. So it had, 13, 14 total tracks?
12.
12?
Yeah, 12 originally. They reissued it in 2003, I think it was. And they had 3 more tunes on it at that point on CD that were not originally on the album.
Mm.
Trying to see if I can find when they re-released it.
Yeah, they do that a lot. Re-release that's a remaster plus then, hey, let's put a few more songs on there from not the album or their live tracks or something.
2001.
Okay.
Oh, apparently the prologue and Twilight tracks were used in the 1983 anime opening animation Daikon 4.
Mm.
Yep.
And obviously, they influenced people like Gary Newman, OMD, and the Human League with this album.
Well, like I said, a lot of modern EDM artists have been influenced too by like Daft Punk and the Granddaddies. Who's that guy I saw just not long ago? I don't even remember his name.
Mm.
Yeah. Looks like also Lady Hawk was influenced by this album.
I don't know who that is.
Different musician.
Okay. Lady Hawk was definitely inspired by it, I agree there. Good film too.
Yeah.
The album did very well on album charts around the world at the time. I think the highest it may have peaked was in the UK, but in the United States, it spent a lot of time at number 16. It never got to the top 10, but it just hung in the top 20 for a while.
Yeah, from what I can see, number 1 on UK's chart for 2 weeks.
It had quite a few hit songs. Chart wise in the United States, maybe only 2 that actually charted, but several that got a lot of radio play on stations like classic rock stations and rock format stations.
So on the Billboard 200, it hit 16. On the US Cashbox Top 100 albums, it hit 9. But it was number 1 in the UK, Sweden, Spain, and Germany.
I remember at the time, it got a lot of acclaim for being so far ahead of its time. And then it also got a lot of heat from ELO fans because they Jeff Lynne dared step away from the orchestra.
Yep.
I thought at the time it was one of the most interesting works that I'd heard on an album, especially a conceptual album done by a progressive rock band like ELO or Pink Floyd or anybody like that in that vein.
If you're a true music lover, wouldn't you want to experiment past the orchestra as a literal thing?
You'd think so.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently,
and I liked how at the time that he released it, the story weaved itself together throughout the course of the album.
Apparently, it hit gold in Germany, Netherlands, and the United States, and platinum in sales in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, ELO was very popular in the UK back in its time.
I mean, ELO is popular pretty much everywhere.
I'd say less popular now, but sure.
They still sell out. They sold out here in St. Louis on their last.
Yeah, and their tickets were $150 a pop.
And up.
Yeah.
Something I noticed with one of the tracks, because I just listened to it. One of the tracks, either I'm imagining things, or it's just a common music theory thing that all musicians do with certain chord progressions. But it sounded like one of the tracks in there, I just kept hearing Deathclock's Mustakrakish, because it just had so many similarities to it.
The beat
Or
progression.
maybe what you were really hearing in the Deathclock song that you mentioned was Time by ELO's influence.
Maybe.
Yep.
Yep. So apparently, as I look up fun facts about this, because I'll be honest, I didn't find any when I was first doing this. The music video for the single "Hold On Tight."
Oh, good lord! They spent a ton of money at the time.
Was the most expensive made to that point, with a budget of approximately £40,000. You spent £40,000 on a music video.
That's a chunk of change. I didn't see the music video. I just had an audio playlist.
I don't think I need to point out how much money Michael Jackson had spent on his music videos.
No, that's true.
You don't.
Yeah.
But for an English band that wasn't known for, putting out top 10 songs on the pop chart and videos,
Yeah, and
that was a lot of money.
I'd also like to point out that the song's only 3 minutes and 6 seconds long.
It sure is. And it was a big hit in the United States, climbing into the top 10.
40,000 well spent.
little over 10,000 a minute.
Yeah. Yeah, so what I think everyone besides Zareth listened to the album. I want to know what you guys thought.
I was disappointed that I forgot when my favorite song came out by ELO, and that it wasn't on this album.
What's
It
your
was
favorite
very
song? I can look it
ambient.
Xanadu with Olivia Newton-John.
up. It was released in 1980 on the album of the
Previous
same
album.
name.
That does not shock me.
But yeah, I thought it was very atmospheric, ambient. I had the thought while I was listening to the end of it that I was worried I would fall asleep and sleep through the podcast, which is why I connected and stayed muted. I mean, deafened.
I'm trying not to go to sleep. I get you.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me. It's a very calm album.
Yeah.
Yeah, I listened to it while I was at work. As
I think-
pondered.
I think that was the most surprising thing about listening to this album in particular by ELO, is there weren't many like high tempo songs.
Yeah. So it sounds like we have a general consensus of people enjoying the album.
That would definitely be
Sure.
accurate. It's one of my favorite ELO albums. I can't say
It was
is my
very well
favorite,
put together.
but it's very damn good.
Personally, I would not listen to it again, but I am a metalhead, so yeah.
A little too calm for you. Got it.
Yeah, when I say a little, it's like no, it's a lot. It's a lot bit calm for me.
That's completely
I've
understandable.
listened to it probably about a couple hundred times in my lifetime so far, and probably will again before it's over.
So you're saying it's like Beetlejuice for you?
Well,
where you watch
it's
the
been my-
Poltergeist, where it's like I keep
Yeah.
watching it hundreds of
Exorcist.
times, and it keeps getting funnier every
Getting
single
funnier and
time.
funnier, right?
Yeah. Exorcist 167
Exorcist,
times and it
that's
keeps
it.
getting funnier every time he sees it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Pretty much, yes. I just enjoy this album. It's in my top 20. In fact, I'd say it's in my top 10 of albums that I enjoy.
That's how I
Listening
am
to
with
over and over again.
That's how I am with The Sufferer and The Witness by Rise Against.
Yeah, that's about my opinion of Rust in Peace, which I have suggested for this podcast.
Yeah, it'll make the list eventually.
All right,
Actually, I had an album recommend. I'm not sure if it'll work. But
maybe.
let me look at it.
So, let's get into our checklist. Also,
Indeed.
I still need to pull up the stream.
Oh yeah, I've been watching it. No chat so far. I think both
Okay.
Ecstasy and Aichi are probably prepping for the game we're having on Daggerheart.
Which
Yeah,
we
probably.
don't stream for numerous reasons.
Yes,
Right.
it is definitely to NSFW
So-
for that.
Into the checklist. And for those of you listening that haven't heard us do a music or an album before, this is a bit different than our normal.
Here, I'll get rid of
Yeah, we got a
spoilers.
different checklist.
Yep, it's on the screen on the right side if you're watching this after the fact.
Yes. So, checklist. Fast tempo, high energy, short songs. I can't
Shorts-
really say.
Said
A
short,
couple
I
of
can't
them.
really say
Short
a check
songs-
to all of them.
short songs possibly. Fast tempo, most of them no.
I'd say it's about 50-50. About half of them were fast tempo. The 6 words, 6 weren't.
Yeah, that's a good way to think of it. I like that.
If they were fast in tempo, they did not feel fast in tempo.
Well,
They
Yeah.
won't
you
really
are a
buy
metalhead.
it.
There's a difference in metal and tempo and other tempo.
They were pretty.
If there
pretty
weren't, I would
soothing.
have some questions. But yeah, there are differences. I don't always listen to thrash metal. I do listen to other not so fast sounding things, but usually equally heavy sounding.
This is more in the vein of new wave,
Yeah.
punk, techno. That's a
Synth
different type of tempo than, say, metal or thrash or
Yeah.
hardcore.
Yeah, it's very much synth pop.
It does have
Right.
a lot of backing, which is one of the reasons why some of the songs, when I looked them up, have a higher BPM than you'd expect. But they don't sound like it when you're listening to it. You'd have to be a music geek and look into all the notes that are playing in the background and go like, oh yeah, they are playing pretty fast there.
Because it sounds like it's calm.
Exactly.
But when you look at the actual sheet music, it's something like that.
Yeah, exactly. But it doesn't sound like that when you've got the reverb, when you've got echo, when you've got other things playing a part in it to give it the ethereal sound that a lot of them tend to have. ELO's well known for that for a lot of their songs.
Also, if you have a sufficiently fast time signature, but you use sufficiently slow notes, like half notes and whole notes, they'll instead sound like quarter notes and half notes.
Exactly.
Alright. So, I'm gonna just go ahead and mark it as a no, because it doesn't hit all three of those elements.
No.
What was the third element?
High energy.
Mm-hmm.
Again, about 50-50, I'd say.
Yeah.
True.
But
50-50
do we check
isn't
for
a yes.
50-50? Like we'd check for 60-40.
I would definitely say there's some high energy in the album. Fast tempo, I would not say is in there. Short songs, the first and last track are short, and the stuff in the middle is at most 4 minutes and change, so
Average.
I would call it long.
Yeah. Definitely not short, though. Medium.
Yeah.
I would call it all average. All three are about average.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with Sammy there. That's why when we're saying 50-50, that makes sense. It's averages out. Some short, some long. It's average for that.
I'm gonna say no, and then I'm gonna put in parentheses half check. Because it does halfway check the box, but it doesn't fully.
It's like
check the box.
you start doing the tick by doing the little one,
Yep,
but it doesn't do the large big tick at the end.
exactly. It doesn't do the swoop.
Well, it's like how some albums have one single in it that carry the album. Like some bands are well known for the one hit wonder thing where it's that one song. ELO's not one of those.
Yeah.
They have so many good ones.
Yep.
Pick your favorite one-hit wonder, just like that.
Cyberpunk themes, such as crime, AI, class uprising, governmental and corporate corruption, anarchy, gang warfare, and transhumanism.
I'm sorry, what?
I said cyberpunk themes.
Mm-hmm.
Does it have cyberpunk themes? Some of them have lyrics, some do not. Some it's in the album artwork, which is a separate thing we have now. Because we wanted to differentiate it from the artwork and from the music videos associated. Because some albums, the music videos associated with them have nothing at all to do with the lyrics or the song. They're just added after the fact by the producer.
I don't remember any themes from what I heard, but I wasn't looking at the lyrics too.
I think the general theme of the album feels somewhat dystopian, given its story.
Agreed.
Basically, traveled in time to be disappointed with what he found and wished he had gone back to what he had been.
But he could.
Nope, sure couldn't.
Nope.
The malady of the time traveler.
Well, because it's...
That is...
To specify once again, it's 1980s to 2095, so over 100 years.
Yep.
You know,
And the world wasn't better; it was worse.
yeah, I
So
mean,
do we
Phil Spector, like combining that part with it, oh, it was good stuff. Anyway, sorry.
So do we consider time travel a cyberpunk theme?
No, it's sci-fi.
No, more of a sci-fi.
Yeah,
Alright,
yeah,
we'll
that's
mark this box as a no.
But just
Well,
remember this:
there are
when this
some,
album was done, it wasn't done with the idea of being a cyberpunk album.
I'm
True.
aware.
Honestly, it was done with as a conceptual album about what would a time traveler face if they went into time and found
what
that
they-
things didn't get
yeah.
better; they got worse.
Yeah,
And what
and
they found was a dystopian future.
I would say
Right.
that definitely relates. So I wouldn't say no check because I mean, example.
You
Let's
want
see
me to
the way
say
the way
yes, Jim?
life's meant to be, right? Walking down the same street 100 years before, displayed by plastic flowers and ivory towers which have grown on top of it. Like the artificiality that's taken over what actually used to be real. You
His
know?
conversation with a robot that doubles both as could be his girlfriend, a
Oh, the
telephone, and whatever else.
Back when
And yet
things
he's
were
strangely
uncomplicated.
unhappy.
And
Yep.
yeah, that's the gynoid. Yeah, I know about that one. It's yours truly. That's a good one.
hmm
I think it
So
actually
yeah,
said,
go on, Matt.
News of the world, where the
Yes.
news of the world is flashing by him, and he's realizing that this world is much worse than what he ever could have imagined it would have been compared to where he came from and what he had at that point.
Fair point.
absolutely. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Sammy.
No, I was just gonna say. So although the theme might be about a time traveler that goes through time to try to find a better future and not finding one, the theme is that everything has turned sadly like how we don't want it to be, where it's all artificial, it's all terrible,
Dystopian.
dystopian, and far more futuristic than the guy was hoping to see.
Also, I
Right.
got a good one to say here. So it comes from the same place that Cyberpunk was created in the 1980s, which is looking at the future. Because remember, what was it? Cyberpunk 2020 was 40 years in the future. It doesn't mean that things get any better, and to hell of it, they definitely didn't look better in the 1980s looking at 2020. And nowadays, of course, with 2077, you're looking at now we're in the 2020s. When they made it, it was back in the 20-teens. It would have been about 50 years or so in the future to 60 when they first were pitching the game. It's the same concept. You look to the future and go, it ain't going to be pretty.
Right.
yeah.
Probably the song that shows it the most is 20th Century Man,
Oh, yeah.
where he
21st.
sits and contemplates everything and realizes everything. And then the loss of it all is that humanity somehow lost itself.
Yeah, and he can't return to the past. He's got to hold on. And hold on
Right.
right there. That's a good one. I like that one. The future's been stolen from him, I guess is another way to think of it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and make it a yes.
Doesn't have the gang warfare, but it has almost everything else there.
Heavy use of synthesizers. I was trying to combine use and synthesizers.
Don't do that. That's
And
bad.
no. And electronic instruments. Yes.
That's a big tick.
Mm-hmm.
yes. That's
This band is-
that's like the boldest tick so far.
I was going to say,
It
they're
is-
literally called ELO for a reason.
99% of what they do is synthesizers.
Dark and moody atmosphere.
No.
During this
What?
album, I'd say yes.
Yeah.
Their music in general, no. But this
No.
album in particular, yes.
The theming of this album, 100% yes.
The songs
Maybe.
and the
The-
tone is what Barry, I think, is saying no to.
Yeah.
But the kind of musical styling, probably not. But the theming of this album, very much yes.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I like a juxtaposition where you're inviting someone to see the amazing future and all they can do is cry.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
Because
it's,
it
like, it's
wasn't
amazing, it's exciting,
Yep.
it's uplifting. Look at how amazing things are. I just want to go home.
It suffers from
It's
the
It's like a trip
same.
to Disney World.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm stuck here and I can't go back. Oh, God help me.
It suffers
Aren't you happy
from
to be
the
here?
same.
Look at how amazing this is.
It's like a trip to Disney World.
That's what I just said.
Welcome to
Yeah.
hell.
And
It suffers from the same thing that a lot of 80s songs suffered from. It has dark lyrics, but it sounds upbeat and happy. There's a
Exactly.
reason why Every Breath You Take, which I affectionately call the Stalker song, is one of the most
You're not the
requested
only
songs
one.
for people to play at weddings.
Yeah.
It's literally a song about a stalker, yet everybody wants it played at their wedding for some reason or another.
Maniac.
Not everybody.
Maniac was made to be one for a serial killer, and it for a stalker as well. And that one's still remembered. People would dance to that.
Oh,
you
Yeah.
know?
even the
I
bell. Psycho killer.
Yes,
I
exactly.
still think the most confusing one is "My Heart Will Go On."
Mm-hmm.
Well, like Gold Digger, which was all about absolutely loving trying to make money in New York in the 1980s. It was from the same place that would create American Psycho. Would come
Well,
from
if
that
we're going to
same-
go there, Sunday, Bloody Sunday.
Yeah.
Yep.
but that was more of a remembering a historical event than
It is,
Mhm.
But
look how it was done.
I think you're right.
Very
though.
upbeat, very.
Dark. It's not in a minor key. It's not moody. So I would say probably that's not a check. But
Even
the
if
actual
you did
music,
use a minor key, half of AC/DC's biggest hits are in a minor key.
true. But I'm saying it. Like I know which ones produce a feeling of being moody, and this unfortunately didn't have those.
Yeah.
Right.
So I would say no check for that one. But the lyrics,
But
yes.
thematically, yes.
Thematically, yes. But this isn't theme. This is atmosphere.
Right. Experimentation with sound design and unconventional song structures.
Yes.
100%. A textbook example based on what we said earlier.
I fully agree with the experimentation they were doing, even though it's not my jam. It is fully valid as an art form. It's just not my type of art to enjoy.
Well, yeah, it's like the
Right.
Blade Runner soundtrack. I'm sure it's not to Barry's favorite album, but it would definitely be a good
Correct.
example of a lot of ambient and
Yeah,
synthesizer.
yeah.
So,
And you know,
And
it
that's
wasn't
dark
the first
enough.
time
I
they'd
can
done
enjoy
this.
that more than this album. Sorry, not sorry.
oh, you're
Like,
fine.
obviously, they'd done music before this album, so it wasn't the first time they'd experimented this way, but it was the first full album in this way.
Yeah, that's what I
Right.
meant. It's like the example of as an album, because we're judging the album, not just a song.
All right. Ambient soundscape. I'd say yes.
Check.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Not as much as God Save You Black Emperor or something. I'm sure the name of the band. That one's 100% ambient. I think one of their songs clocks in like 45 minutes. Like that's a good example. Mixing news elements and interviews with music. Godspeed You Black Emperor. That's it. Oh god, such a crazy album, band name. You look it up sometime. It's fascinating to listen to. Not Cyberpunk though.
Yeah, anything that makes American Pie sound like a YouTube short.
All right. Exceeds a limit or boundary, especially of social acceptability. Yeah, I'd say so.
I would say so, especially if Barry was trying to not fall asleep during.
Yeah.
But really, this is more. It's calling people out and calling artificiality out a lot.
Right.
At the beginning of the 80s, who knew?
Yeah,
Well, I mean,
exactly.
what the Gorillaz did something like that later on. Plastic Beach is very much the same kind of concept, like the artificiality of everything.
And now it's gotten even more artificial.
Yeah.
Purposefully, which I think is a really clever move in the direction for the Gorillaz. Makes even more sense what the music machine.
No,
were
I was
doing.
meaning society in general.
Oh, I thought you were talking
Yeah.
about the way the band went. I'm sorry. You're correct. Everything has become more artificial, especially the music. And pictures, and everything.
And the amount of microplastics in the average person.
Yep.
Cyberpunk-like images. I think we've discussed that already. That's a big old check.
Mm-hmm. They knew what they were doing.
Especially in some of their songs, they did a lot of very themed music videos.
Now,
when mixed in with them looking like the Bee Gees.
right. Now, does it feel cyberpunk? Greg, what do you think?
That's a very good question. To me, yes. The concept pushed forward a style of music that hadn't been done before at the time and was copied a lot afterwards. Even today, it's a big influence for the EDM bunch. The lyrics and the context of the lyrics, yeah, I'd have to say it feels that way to me.
All right. Grim.
I'm going to say yes.
Matt.
I would say probably not enough punk, but cyber, yes. I mean, it's mostly a lot of whining. I will say that part. It reminds me a little bit of the early '90s albums for. But the music's better.
Barry.
I agree with Matt.
Agree with Matt.
Mm.
Sammy.
In my biased opinion, no, it doesn't feel cyberpunk to me. It sadly has that normal 80s mixed with 50s vibe that I can't shake thanks to my parents.
Yep.
But,
All
right.
Also, it was the same writer across the whole board. Did you mention that one earlier?
I did not.
Oh, Jeff Lynne wrote all the songs. This wasn't one where it was shared writing amongst the group or the band. It was all Jeffrey Lynne.
Yeah, if you asked me to name an iconic song from 1981, I would not name anything off of this. I would name, and correct me if I'm wrong on the year, Van Halen's Jump.
No, that was 1984.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
Then I'm not sure from 1981 off the top of my head.
Face the Music, Evil Woman is probably one of the ones that's, in my opinion, better. Is also, of course, Mr. Blue Sky of 77, but Don't Bring Me Down is also good.
Hold On Tight would be the iconic song from this album. It got played the hell out of, even in commercials at the time.
There goes that joke. I'm gonna abstain courteously.
Abstained courteously. All right. There we go. My thoughts were it's close to cyberpunk, but I prefer a bit more of that edge that punk has.
I thought it was Does It Feel Cyberpunk?
Yeah.
That doesn't feel like a feel cyberpunk answer.
Well, it is. Because my verdict is borderline.
You made the same mistake I made a while ago.
What mistake's that?
Said the wrong answer at the wrong moment.
No, those were my thoughts.
Okay.
Grim.
My verdict? I think borderline.
Borderline. All right, Matt.
Okay, so Neuromancer came out in 1984, correct?
Yes.
So I'm not going to call it Cyberpunk. I'm going to call it
Proto.
Yeah, no, inspired by Proto Cyberpunk.
Inspired by Proto Cyberpunk.
It
All
itself is not in the genre, but it definitely took inspiration from the stuff that was Cyberpunk before Cyberpunk was a genre. There's a lot of sci-fi where someone sees the future and is terrified by what could have been versus what is now. And this definitely feels like it was inspired by the same things that inspired Cyberpunk, but it itself is not. It's close.
I'm glad you brought that up, Matt. Because I didn't think anyone else would think of it.
Well, to be honest, I think it was just based on observations they were making, the future they were seeing that could possibly happen.
All right, Barry.
From what I heard after listening to that whole album, I didn't hear that much punk in the album, and it can't be cyberpunk without the punk. So I'm gonna say, nah, not cyberpunk.
All right. Greg.
I'd say borderline.
All right, 3 borderlines so far. Sammy.
And if you hadn't guessed by me pointing out that Matt knew that the inspired by proto-cyberpunk genre was a thing, mine is inspired by proto-cyberpunk because it itself is not proto-cyberpunk, it's not cyberpunk, and it's definitely not cyberpunk based off of everything that we've discussed, but it does nicely fit in that inspired by proto-cyberpunk genre.
All right, Zareth.
Are you sure that counts, even though it's just made by 80s observations, which are still relevant now, ironically?
It happens to predate Cyberpunk.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's true, and on one hand, I agree with you two, but at the same time, I have to abstain because I didn't listen to the album.
I mean,
Hey,
even Blade Runner.
You really should.
Even Blade Runner didn't come out till the next year. That was 82.
And I don't just mean for this podcast. I mean, listen to ELO. They actually do some really good music.
Friggin' agreed.
Like, if this album had freaking Mr. Blue Sky, Living Thing, Don't Bring Me Down, Strange
Sounds like the
Evil
greatest
Woman.
hits album.
you know, any of their actually, like, amazing songs, this album would be banging.
Some of those songs I have unironically listened to and enjoyed. The stuff on this album, no.
So, does anyone want to change a vote before I put in our final verdict?
I will
the
change
opportunity.
to what Sammy and Matt said.
Inspired by Proto
Yeah,
Cyberpunk. Got it.
Explain that to me. Inspired by Proto Cyberpunk.
Okay, so
Since I don't want,
So go ahead.
since I don't want to tie, I'll just put my vote with those three.
Okay, so well, we had 3-1 and potentially 3 the other. Proto Cyberpunk is it would be Cyberpunk when it was just made too early. If we think it's just slightly not Cyberpunk, meaning it would be any of the others, we would normally use borderline, inspired, etc., etc. But it came before Cyberpunk, then we give it the inspired by Proto Cyberpunk, meaning it is in Cyberpunk.
Yeah, I want to go with that.
But it inspired it, and it took inspiration from it. That was Cyberpunk before Cyberpunk was a genre. You could have even said adopted, but I don't think anything directly was adopted from it, so I think inspired by Proto Cyberpunk works.
I want to go with that. That makes sense. Inspired by.
Yeah.
With a vote of 5-1 to 1.
I love when we have the outlets.
Did you just change your vote too, Lupus?
No.
5-1 to 1, so 5 inspired.
I
1...
changed mine.
You
and
changed yours, Zareth changed
Greg
hers,
changed-
and Greg changed his.
Oh, I thought that Zareth was
okay.
abstain. My bad.
No,
So
they abstained from their decision of if it felt cyberpunk or not, but they still voted.
well, they originally abstained from the verdict, and then as people were discussing it, changed to inspired by. So, with a vote of 5 to 1 to 1, we have a final verdict of inspired by Proto Cyberpunk. So while I lock that in, Barry, where can we find you?
Yeah, if you like what you hear of me on this, you can look up other stuff of me online. I have links on my Linktree account. My account name there is spelled KHZHAK, and while I have an Amazon wishlist and a merch shop on Streamlabs, I would much prefer if you donate directly to Xeris GoFundMe. I've got all the information up there. Even $1 helps. Please donate. That would really help out. And before I get too long-winded about this, if you look me up on Twitter or whatever it's called, or Google, and your safe search is turned off, that's your problem. Who's next?
Put an extra $1 in there for me, please, Barry.
So, where you can find me is on both Twitter and on YouTube at SNMGD or SNM Game Dungeon. That stands for Stephanie and Matthew or Mathadar Game Dungeon. We play a lot of video games, usually Tuesdays and Thursdays and Saturdays from noon to 8, although we've had a lot of things going on Saturdays and sometimes Thursdays, delaying massive amounts of our streams, but that is the regular hours. Let's see, we are not a BDSM themed podcast, nor are we a BDSM themed streamer, but some of the music I make is BDSM themed. We do not have an OnlyFans page, no matter how many times people bring it up. It's still in the, as Aichi put last time, darn, it's in the maybe column, but it's in the no at the moment. Otherwise, you can find me all those places, and I also make music. Who's next?
So it's no with the asterisk of yet.
So, side comment, if you do want that type of content, there's a pinned tweet on my account that links to that.
And then Xerath.
I'm actually surprised you have a list to remind you you don't have an OnlyFans.
It's been brought up enough.
It's been brought up enough times. I do bring it up.
Okay, you can find me on Romeo Moon One's channel. You can find me on my own channel.
You cut it out there.
And you can. So you can find me on Romeo Moon One's channel. You can catch me on my own channel every now and again. But it's hard to say what we're doing because our schedule's been a mess due to real life problems. But we'll be streaming soon again, hopefully.
All right. For this podcast, you can find us on Facebook, X, Instagram, Blue Sky, and Twitch by searching Gen Cyberpunk Pod. Our YouTube channel is Generation Cyberpunk. You can find more, you can find that by searching Generation Cyberpunk Podcast. My brain is trying to read these words faster than I can. If you want to hear more from our group, check out the Thanks for Nothing podcast on the FML Productions YouTube channel. We do various D&D campaigns on that channel, or have in the past, and are in the process of making an anime and manga, so stay tuned for that. If you're looking for a file sorter, please check out the Stilt Fox file sorter. Yes, Stilt Fox is trademarked. You can learn more about it at www.stiltfox.com. And finally, please check out An Unearthly Podcast, which streams around 10-ish p.m. Central Time on Saturdays. It's a podcast about all things Doctor Who. All right, Edgerunners, we have to Delta. We'll see you all next week when we discuss the 1989 anime miniseries Goku Midnight Eye. Stay safe out there, chums.